After the main character quickly ran away, with his pants half up, he managed to find a peaceful, picturesque spot about 100 miles away. There, he decided to settle down and make this place his new home. Since the forest cat had already become a permanent member of his little group, he named the cat Belle, symbolizing its soft, velvet-like fur. Soon after, he began teaching Animo how to read and write, even tackling the formidable enemy that was math. But due to the lack of diesel available in the marketplace, the man had been stuck purchasing expensive kerosene for his work. He decided to research possible cheaper alternatives, hoping to find a more cost-effective conversion method. When Animo noticed the man reading, he immediately expressed his own desire to learn. Even with the language barrier, Animo eagerly followed the pronunciation guide the man had provided and began reading with great interest. One day, while the man was working, he noticed something unusual in the forest. Immediately, he grabbed his crossbow and prepared for an encounter. It was then that the cat girl, having discovered the man's escape, followed his and Belle's scent all the way here. Naturally, she joined the little family. At dinner, the man asked about some familiar faces back in the city and learned that the blonde-haired man had proposed to the merchant's daughter. The news didn't make him feel disappointed in the slightest. In fact, he even regretted not being able to attend their wedding. Later, the man realized the cat girl had taken an interest in the fairy tale books he had bought, which gave him an idea. Perhaps this could be a business opportunity. But unsure whether the fairy tales from his original world would be popular in this new one, he asked them about the kinds of fairy tales that were popular in this world. They told him a quirky story about a human prince and an elf falling in love, only to face opposition from both the elves and humans. In the end, they were protected by a fairy and lived happily ever after. Inspired by this, the man quickly sketched out a draft and, using a simple printing press, created the first set of fairy tale books for this world. Animo and the cat girl were overjoyed, and the man felt a sense of accomplishment. A few days later, the man noticed strangers arriving by boat and immediately drew his weapon, demanding they explain their intentions. The strangers revealed they were from the opposite shore of the lake and had come to check for bandits settling in the area. Upon seeing Belle, the orc boatman immediately understood that anyone close to Belle must be trustworthy. However, they still had to confirm with their leader, a man named Cruden, who had previously worked in the government. After inspecting the man's hideout, Cruden confirmed he was just an ordinary merchant, and he became the first customer to buy the fairy tale books. A few days after that, Miri, Cruden's daughter, came to visit the man while he was collecting herbs outside. The two of them had little time alone, so they made the most of it, and the man didn't mind after all. It wasn't their first time. Back at his workshop, the man began experimenting with dye synthesis. If successful, he could finally say goodbye to the expensive kerosene. But his intense focus on work made Animo a bit unhappy. It wasn't until the man promised to take him to a nearby town to shop that Animo cheered up again. Upon arriving in town, they first stopped at the Adventurers Guild, where the man was momentarily distracted by the large bust of the receptionist. After registering at the guild, they visited a magic shop. The man quickly noticed an odd magical device. The shopkeeper, a grandmother, demonstrated it for them. By pouring water and wine into two separate openings, the device separated the water from the wine. The man immediately realized this device could help him refine fuel by separating specific substances from liquids. Impressed by the magical gadget, he bought it for 5 gold coins. Then he noticed Animo holding a magic book and, of course, decided to learn magic as well. Without hesitation, he spent 10 more gold coins on the book. However, when he tried to examine it further, the grandmother snatched it away, explaining that the magic book needed to be registered first and that the man should return in a week. Later, as they walked through a narrow alley, they saw Cruden and his daughter surrounded by a group of thugs. The man hesitated, unsure whether to intervene, but when he saw Animo's expectant look, he reluctantly stepped in. Using the face of a plague doctor, he shouted to stop the thugs and launched a 20 firecracker spell. The thugs, thinking it was some kind of magic, quickly fled in fear. Afterward, Cruden explained that he had arrested some of these thugs during his time working for the government, so they were now looking for trouble with him. He introduced the man to his daughter, Miri, who was delighted to meet the author of the fairy tale books. Animo also bonded with Miri, as they shared a love of the stories and were around the same age. The two girls quickly became close and spent many happy hours together. But one day, Cruden came to the man with a bag of coins, explaining that Miri had fallen seriously ill. He hoped the man, as a merchant, could provide some medicine. Although the local healer's magic could cure her, Cruden clearly couldn't afford her services. The man quickly bought some children's fever medicine for her and even returned the payment, saying it wasn't necessary. Cruden promised to go home and bring the healer, but when they arrived, the healer said that it wasn't just a simple fever, healing magic wouldn't work. Instead, they needed a rare white flower from deep in the forest. Without wasting time, the man mounted his motorcycle, and along with Cruden and the orc, they set off to find the flower. Meanwhile, the thugs who had fled earlier were nearby, looking for trouble again.